Speaking and sticking with media, look, you've received it from a lot of people. All right. One person that you have received it from was Megyn Kelly and Riley Gaines. That's two people. And on the topic of Caitlin Clark, here is what Megyn Kelly said when she spoke out, rightfully. Megyn Kelly said the players of the NBA can't blanking stand her. Why? Because she's white. It's abject, absolute racism. It's total racism, and one of the things that's been admirable about Caitlin is she just continues to play her game and puts points on the board. Instead, she decides to go racial in what she says as she feels the need to acknowledge her white privilege. Basically, she's sorry she's white. She feels really bad about it, though, and then she makes a point of saying the ones we really need to be celebrating are the black women on whose backs this league was built, which I have to tell you something is so condescending. It really is. And we could go on and on about this. But considering who Megyn Kelly is and her playing up this whole gotta be apologetic for being white thing, like it's such a smorgasbord of bullshit. But what was your reaction to this?
Okay, so this is the portion of the interview where we talk about miserable people. Got it. It's on brand for her.
Mm-hmm.
This is Mrs. Santa Claus is just white. That's just how it
Right.
is. I mean, it's like the hills she chooses to die on are just so bizarre to me. It's like the whole, it's like, okay, this is the thing is that when Caitlin Clark could be used as an avatar for whatever people politically wanted her to stand for, based off nothing she said, based off certainly not based off how she played. I mean, how she played is fantastic. When they thought she was an avatar that stood for certain things, and when they thought that she was their perfect weapon to use to bludgeon black women, they were all about Caitlin Clark.
Yep.
The moment she showed a level of respect, a level of, affinity with the same people that they wanted to use her as a blunt instrument again, then suddenly she can't think for herself, which is what Megyn Kelly alluded to in her comments, that she was somehow forced to make these comments, which she made, as part of a piece on her in Time magazine, because I think she was Time Athlete of the Year.
Correct.
And because Megyn Kelly, I'm guessing, has probably never been to a WNBA game, probably has never had a conversation with a WNBA player in her life, and probably does not follow the league at all, other than to pop in and out on these moments where she can use somebody like Caitlin Clark as her own petty avatar, then her ill-informed comments make a lot of sense from that perspective. But I thought what Caitlin Clark said, she wasn't apologizing for being white. What she was saying was something that is not news, is that she knows that as someone who is and other, by the way, Caitlin Clark ain't the first white player in the WNBA to say this. Kelsey Plum said the same thing. Breanna Stewart has said the same thing, is that they know, just by the virtue of being white women, that they're going to get, advertisers are going to be more prepared to rock with them. Marketers, they're going to be marketed differently. Like, this is a conversation that's been taking place in the WNBA for years,
Mm-hmm.
all right, about how a lot of the black players had to fight for opportunities outside of basketball because simply either the way they look, the fact that they didn't consider them to be the type of women who could appeal to all American women, like they know what they're up against. And the white women in the league who have some level of self-awareness understand this difference. They understand there is a certain amount of privilege they're going to get just from being white. They get it. And that's all she was saying. She wasn't saying, like, I'm sorry that I'm white. She was just saying, like, I acknowledge I do get some privilege. And I acknowledge that because even though she's one of the best, women's college players in history, her WNBA story obviously is still being written. She's been a transformative player for two sports, women's college basketball and for the WNBA. She understands her place in history, but also understands that the whole reason she's sitting there is because there were a lot of black women that came before her that made that possible, that fought the fight she didn't have to fight so she could be there. And I think that's just being emotionally intelligent to recognize that. Just like I easily recognize that Pam Oliver, that Jane Kennedy, that other Leslie Visser, that other women in sports have, Lisa Olson, have gone through things in locker rooms that I didn't have to go through because they went through them.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it is. All right. And so I think it's just Megyn Kelly, unfortunately, further being herself.
Yes. What really gets me is the lack of self-respect. That's what really gets me. Because during those debates, when Donald Trump ran the first time, what he said about her, and then for her to completely just throw all of it away and go, I don't even know what is stronger than a big endorsement. She went above and beyond, considering
Yeah.
the way that he treated her. And all that tells me is like, yeah, it's politics, but also it's gross. It's gross that this person doesn't have respect for herself, that he would say that on national television about her.
But here's the thing is that for, and I have discovered this in my time as media, is being a member of the media, is that a lot of people in the profession are playing a part. And what really sunk, this really sunk in for me when I think the first time I went to the White House when Obama was in there. And this would have been, I think, 2016. And in the receiving line, a lot of those same Fox News personalities that were ripping Obama from end to end, including Megyn Kelly, I'm pretty sure, I'm positive she was there. They were all in the receiving line to get a picture with Obama.
Mm.
And that let me know, oh, this is just theater to them. They're just playing a part. I mean, it's just theater. Like, and so that just, I never had a lot of respect, but like, that's when I knew. I was like, oh, this is really just a game and a grift to them. It's like they're
Mm-hmm.
willing to do whatever because they're playing a role. It's not even authentic. And so it's easy to switch up like that. Like it's easy to, after hearing somebody in Donald Trump's position who completely, dehumanized you in front of a very large audience, it's easy for you to go run it back because you never believe anything you said to begin with. You have
Mm-hmm.
no conviction. That's why it's so fake. And so it's like it's pro wrestling for them, And that's why I have very little respect for people who do that. Very
Understood.
little. Actually, I don't have any, so I'm like, I don't even know why I'm trying to say it's little.
Okay, so zero. There's another person who probably is in the same category that I mentioned previously, and you had a back and forth on Twitter, surprise, with Riley
Hmm.
Gaines when
Correct.
she tweeted, "No one was asking for Caitlin Clark to position herself as a right-wing hero. All she needed to do was remain neutral." I mean, she pretty much told on herself there. "She's a phenom who
Right.
inspires countless young girls to play and achieve, so I still have great admiration for her, but she missed the mark on this one." And in a follow-up, she would call you, a shocker, a race baiter. So you responded, "You holler all the time about supporting and protecting women, and yet the moment that Caitlin Clark expresses appreciation, and respect for the black women in the WNBA, many of whom she grew up watching and idolizing, suddenly you're acting like a disappointed parent," which was obviously A plus. But as I alluded to previously, she sort of gave it away when she said all she needed to do was remain neutral, correct?
Yes, correct. Because all what she really wanted to say is all you had to do is not show any level of respect for these black girls, and you would have been our hero still. But because you dared to show some respect to marginalized women, now suddenly it's the wrong move. Look, all I know is this: Ronnie Gaines better think she need to send Leah Thomas a cut of her money every month,
Oh, yes.
every single month, because I've never seen somebody who was as who you know
Unsuccessful?
I was trying to think of a polite word to put it in
Isn't
her
that
own
polite?
scorn.
Was I not being
I mean,
polite?
I was trying to think of a polite word to say there because I don't want to denigrate the fact, like, she became a college swimmer. A lot of
Hmm.
people never get that far,
Hmm.
but I've never seen somebody able to curry so much favor, gain so much capital and currency out of being fifth place.
Hmm.
Never seen it before in my life. And the reason she has been able to do that is because she willingly stomped on a marginalized community and trafficked in their disrespect and denigration as human beings to get a to get the attention in the attention economy. She did it and continues to do it. It's her only claim to fame. Her only claim to fame is I finished fifth place. That's her claim to fame. And, to now be this like media star, and you're a star because of how you denigrated somebody else. Like that's how you got there. And rather than be thankful for such a good fortune on such very little accomplishments, she just continues to be a part of this media pro wrestling ring and play this part. And I was like, because I just doubt very seriously. Like and listen, let me just say this. I do understand that there are real concerns from women who compete in sports about what the presence of trans women means in their sport. Everybody's trying to figure it out. There's a lot to the science that we still don't know, that has never been proven or disproven, that scientifically we don't understand some things. But I do know that the way to go about it isn't the way that she did it. And because of that, and seeing her always hollering, always talking about support women, support women, support women. Oh, I get it. The asterisk is except if they're black women. You can support all other women, just not those women. Got it.
If she hypothetically invited you on her show, would you accept?
To quote Eddie Murphy in Boomerang, and hopefully you get this reference, not even if Jesus was pouring.
Understood.
I don't do that. Like that's not,
I feel you.
and I am not criticizing anybody who does, because we see this happen a lot of times where you have opposing views come together and
Right.
duke it out or whatever. But even if we have, I don't, it's not that I mind somebody having opposing views. I mean, that's part of what you sign up for when you do this job, is like you're going to constantly be confronted with opposing views. It's like when I know that there is just a disingenuous grift behind it, I,
Mm-hmm.
I can't belittle myself to do it.
Right.
I can't.
Right.
So,
Makes sense. Here's the last shitty person, and then we will never discuss these people again. Okay. I'm look, he's called me out a few times, and I continue to call his ass out, and I'm happy to do it. But you told Levitard show that when Jason Whitlock was hired, you didn't want to work with him. Why?
mhm. A lot of it has to do with things he's, said about me, things he said about people I respect in the business who are my friends. Um, just I didn't. And this is very true, is that I I wanted him to be successful at ESPN, just because I know what that would have meant to Black journalists in the broader landscape. Because he was put in charge of being the architect of something that ESPN had never tried before. And so it would have been stupid for me to root for that to fail, especially when it could change the lives and careers and amplify the lives and careers of so many Black journalists and editors and thinkers. That was really important to me. I just didn't want to be a part of it because, um, I felt like it would have been disingenuous. Like, okay, I can root from you from afar. Everybody ain't gotta root up close. Okay. And I just I just didn't feel comfortable with, given what had been the history between us. I didn't feel comfortable doing that. But when I told him I wasn't gonna, work with him, I did say to him that I hope you are successful, and I really meant that. But I felt like his mission was just too important, not to succeed. And unfortunately, it was one of those times where I certainly wasn't surprised by the ending. And yes, I was, sort of right, because secretly thinking, like, as much as I may want this to work, ultimately this person has a very proven track record that shows that this is probably not going to work. It was one of those cases where it didn't feel good to be right. And so I often said the same thing about what I said about Donald Trump, is that I wish I were wrong. I wish it was true that he wasn't the person that I said he was. I wish I would have been as off the mark about anything I've ever said. But that wasn't the case.
Hmm.
And unfortunately, because of that, a lot of people's careers suffered for that.
In the Deadspin piece, when they had a really long write up, I believe one part of it said that he passed out notes that contained quotes by him. Is that true?
I think it was something about that. I don't know if that's true. I knew some people who were working with the Undefeated at the time, and I don't think we ever talked about it, so that's not something I could personally verify.
Okay.
Not surprised if it was the truth, but because there was a lot of very interesting stories that were circulating in the building during that time.
Yeah, I could only imagine.